role-playing games. Over my 21 years on this earth, I've played quite a few of them, but none of them have stood out to me the way Dragon's Dogma does. And in height of the second game's release, I decided to make a video on this beautiful masterpiece. Upon starting a new game, you spawn inside of some dark dungeon with the quest to pursue the dragon. This is basically the prologue. It's where you'll learn basic controls and stuff like that. You also will meet the main antagonist of the game, the dragon. I mean, it can't be Dragon's Dogma without at least one dragon. You'll also have to fight a few enemies like some goblins or some harpies. Eventually, as you continue, you will come across a chimera that you'll have to defeat to be able to continue. This is your first challenging fight of the game. After beating the chimera, cutscene starts, yada yada yada, that shit happens, and now you can customize your character. After you're done making your character, the game officially starts. This area is called Cassardis, your hometown. And here, life is quiet and peaceful, and nothing ever could go wrong. Until shit goes wrong. Oh shit, man, me and my big fucking mouth. Yeah. So, the dragon attacks your village. And, since everyone else is a fucking pussy, you decide to take on the dragon alone. That's right, you fight the dragon. After getting a few meaningless hits, the dragon slaps the absolute dog shit out of you, and since you pissed him off so much, he digs into your chest with his big old dragon finger, plucks out your heart, and then eats it. The good news is, you're not dead. The bad news is, the dragon took your heart. After you wake up, the scar on your chest from where your heart was glows gold, and you can hear the dragon's voice. He essentially tells you to come and face him. And since mama ain't raised no bitch, you decide to take up arms and go whoop his ass. Here, you get to choose your vocation. There are 3 starting vocations: the fighter, the strider, and the mage. The fighter is your standard melee build, able to use swords and shields. The strider is more of a rogue build, able to use daggers and bows. And the mage, that's able to use offensive magic to deal damage, able to grant buffs to their teammates, and able to heal their teammates. I recommend having one of these at all times if you're not playing one. As well as these 3 vocations, there's 6 later vocations that you can use. Some of these vocations are just enhanced versions of the 3 starting, while others are a combination of 2 classes. And if you get tired of playing one vocation, you can switch it out for another. After choosing your vocation, you now have free reign of Cassardis. Your next objective is to leave the town. But if you don't want to continue right off the bat, there are some standard RPG side quests that you can do around town. Upon approaching the gate, you will be thrown into a cutscene where you meet a pawn called Rook. At this point, you figure out you're something called the Arisen. The Arisen is essentially the master of all pawns, a race that's sole objective is to support the Arisen. And as the Arisen, it's prophesized that you must fight the dragon, so might as well, right? Rook is a mage. He's the first pawn you interact with. He's also terrible. The moment you can, replace Rook with someone better. He has no abilities, he's ugly, and he's fucking annoying. Get rid of him. After leaving the village, you need to make your way towards the encampment. In the encampment, you will find something called a riftstone, and it calls out to you. The riftstone asks you to prove your valor to be able to utilize it. After that, you'll see a large group of soldiers running towards the gate to protect it from an attack from monsters. After following them and leaving the camp, you'll come across an ogre, and you'll have to beat the ogre to be able to prove your valor. Luckily, the soldiers already fucked that ogre up a bit, so his health has been reduced. Upon defeating the ogre, after heading back inside and going back to the riftstone, it allows you to create your own pawn. This pawn will be with you until the end of the game, so make sure you create what you want. But you will be able to change most aspects of your pawn later on. Once you're done creating your pawn, you will now have access to something called the Rift. Anytime you interact with a Riftstone, it brings you to the Rift. Here you can see other players' created pawns and you can hire them to help you. But you can only have 3 pawns at a time, and you cannot swap out your main pawn for another. And along with the standard currency, there's something called RC. This is used to hire pawns. RC works like this. The higher level a pawn is compared to you, the more RC it's going to cost to hire them. But if you're a higher level or the same level as a pawn, then it will be free to hire them. Other players will also be able to hire your pawn to use in their game. So make sure you upgrade your pawn's equipment and skills accordingly, because it helps out not only you but other players that use your pawn. After that, you'll be put in a training session with your pawns so you can get a feel of how they work. After completing that training session, you have yourself a long-awaited rest. You're in for a bit of a rude awakening.
This couldn't get any worse. Okay, so it can get worse.
A Hydra attacks the encampment, and now you're in a life or death fight against this thing. But after doing enough damage, he managed to lop off one of its heads.
Whoa. Fucking.
After doing so, you earn the respect of the soldiers around you and their captain, Mercedes. Mercedes asks you to bring the Hydra head to the Duke. And thus begins my most hated quest in this game. To bring the Hydra head to the capital city. That doesn't sound like that bad of a thing. However, the Hydra head is being carted along by this ox. The ox is one of the slowest things in the game. You can make the ox go faster by kicking it, but it will reduce its health. And if the ox dies, you have to restart. You are able to heal the ox, but only if you're playing as a mage and heal it yourself, or you sit in front of the ox while you're getting healed by a mage. If you don't have a mage in your team, then there's nothing you can do. There's so many enemies along this path that you're constantly stopping every 2 minutes. For some odd reason, if you're not near the cart at all times, it just stops moving. There's also a scripted rock slide that can kill the ox if it hits him, but the best way I figured out about getting around the rock slide is just having your pawn sit between the cart and the rock, and then let the rock hit them and the rock will break. Alright, one of you take the fucking hit for us. Take one of you take the hit.
We're exposed here.
Take the hit.
A bird, perhaps?
Thank you. There's nothing good about this quest. And the quest itself takes entirely way too long for a starting quest.
It generally takes about 20 minutes just to arrive at your destination.
And that's if you don't fail. That's the main reason why I hate this quest. It just takes so long. Also, you can ride the ox, so that's probably the best part about the quest. And finally, you arrive at the capital city, Gran Soren. And this is where you're going to spend a lot of your time. As you can see through Gran Soren, you are told to get to the Pawns Guild. This is where a large amount of pawns usually are. Here's where you meet Barnaby, and Barnaby asks you to explore the Everfall. The Everfall is actually quite a hard area. The enemies here are a lot spongier. They've increased health and resistances to standard attacks. You do not want to go here under level. There's some pretty strong enemies here. For example, a troll, who does a pretty good impression of you anytime you see a woman. I spent about 10 minutes fighting this thing, and just as I was about to kill it, it drop-kicked me and killed me instantly. After that happened, I hired some higher level pawns and tried again. And after fighting it for another 5 minutes, it uppercutted me and killed me. And then I took a break. I got a little mad. So then I did a few side quests to level myself up and my vocation, and then went at it one more time.
And the thing is, I didn't even kill it. It kind of killed itself. It just threw itself off the edge.
What? Oh. Yay, I did it. And after reaching the bottom of the Everfall and examining a strange light, multiple tentacles spring up, and your next objective is to get the fuck out of there. And after doing my best to get out run impression, the quest is complete.
And that's where I'm going to leave off on the story for now. I don't want to spoil too much about this game. But now let's talk about gameplay, specifically combat. In most RPGs, take Skyrim for an example, you just keep hitting the attack button until the enemy dies. But Dragon's Dogma does things a little differently. There's a little bit more versatility when it comes to combat. Each vocation has its own set of skills able to be used, and these skills can be swapped out for others or upgraded later on. Some skills include things such as a forward dash leading to a swift strike, an up slash that will knock your enemies into the sky, or lowering your shield and springboarding one of your pawns up in the air to get a jumping attack off. You can pair that together with some of the natural things you can do in this game when it comes to combat. After striking some enemies, you're able to grab onto them afterwards, or being able to hold down some enemies that move around a lot, and your companions will be able to attack them. And with harpies, if you manage to grab them while they're in the air, you'll hold onto their legs and they'll pull you up.
Oh fuck. That was a bad idea!
And with larger enemies, you're able to climb them to be able to strike certain parts of their body, such as their head, which reminds me a lot of Shadow of the Colossus. The combat in this game just has a few simple additions that just makes it feel more fluid and alive. Despite the fact this game came out over a decade ago, just all the more surprises me at how well they've done combat in this game. Enemies in this game also have abilities of their own. There's some enemies that are able to utilize magic spells against you. Some enemies also have a way of grabbing onto the player. Harpies are able to grab onto your shoulders and fly you up and then drop you from a large distance. Some larger enemies can just straight up grab you. But that's one of the things that makes combat so fun. It makes combat feel a little more realistic and fluid. I think that's a pretty good stopping point for this game. I'm currently recording this audio at September 21st. Today, Capcom will be holding a special showcase, and hopefully they will be announcing the release date of Dragon's Dogma 2, and I am beyond hyped. And I also urge every single one of you who hasn't played this game and you like RPGs, give it a try. This game does not disappoint. But I've gone over everything I wanted to go over. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully we get a release date today. And I will see you all whenever I figure out what video to do next. I'm gonna be honest, I'm kind of strapped for ideas. Anyway, that's the end of the video. Click on another one of my videos. Do it now!